All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started with a guide. I'm just going to be running through, as this video series will eventually come to explain, the basic polls and strats that anyone who wants to walk in and start doing Keystone Master Key should probably know. Also, as you'll see from this key, you can still time it despite some pretty big screw-ups. See, even right off from the first pull, we screwed up pretty bad and we still do just fine. Don't be intimidated by these keys. This week that I'm doing it, it is tyrannical necrotic bolstering, and the bolstering is what gets my group here. I'm going to go ahead and get started and talk about it. So I'm going to try and explain basically what there is to know if you do not, if you don't normally do keys. This whole point is to try to get people who might find keys intimidating to be a little bit more comfortable and more willing to go. I realized that I wasn't tracking my blood elf racial, which is very on this pull. Can't find it. There it is. Hooray. Now, I'm a Night Fae, so you definitely want a Night Fae in Mississippi Side. I'm going opening this gate here for us. That's one of the many things that Night Fae brings in this dungeon is that cut into that side area. That said, Night Fae is so common that you shouldn't have any troubles finding one. The group just asked if we can do a big pull. It's pretty common to try and do a big pull here, especially on non-fortified weeks. That said, I warned them about the bolstering. See what happens. So, as a Night Fae, I open this door. I start healing the tank. So these spike claws here, can't really. You'll be able to see some debuff on them. This is a magical effect that they have on them. So anything that is a mass dispel, such as a blood elf racial, mass dispel from a priest, or just spamming purge from a shaman or something, rid of this, and you absolutely should. What that is going to do if it's not removed is that everyone who's around when it dies is going to get a curse that causes them to take extra damage, and it does stack for everyone that happens. So, and I was like, oh, we've got a demon hunter tank. That means we've got a blood elf racial, but he doesn't use it, which is one of the reasons that this pull goes bad. That and the bolster. So, other than that, these spike claws don't really do much. They will cause a bleed to some people, and it can hurt a little bit on fortified, but other than that, not really a big concern. They're mostly just about that curse. These soul cleavers will put a magic debuff on your tank, so healers, you need to keep an eye out for it. In any pack that has a soul cleaver, there are 2 of them, and they will each put up a debuff. So you want to wait until that second debuff is on, until they have 2 stacks of the debuff to cleanse it, so you can get it off immediately. You do want to get it off immediately. It makes some damage. It's very painful. The big tree dudes do a frontal cone, and they will also target someone and try and put them into a pod, which will stun them. If someone is put into a pod on Fortified Week, be sure to heal them or give them some sort of use your defensive if you're a DPS, and break them out of the pod by damaging the pod. Let's see here. I think that's basically it. Oh, there's also a harvest essence that comes here. So we just got some spirit bolts going off. Not a big deal. This bewildering pollen, you can see this blue cone here. So that's the cone to not be in. If you stand in it, it will bewilder you. You'll be disoriented. So let's see here. So you can see this claw debuff on everyone. That's that bleed I mentioned that comes from spike claws. And you can see here, this is the 2 stacks of the magic debuff that I do need to remove, but also my poor druid's dying. So we'll see what I prioritize. So there goes the cleanse. And now I'm seeing that, oh no, they also didn't decurse. So this whole thing's just going bad real fast. We're gonna do our best though. Unfortunately, it's not gonna be enough because look at that 5 stacks of the debuff. That ain't going well, especially look at these bolsters. Look at how bad this goes, and we still time this key. So don't be intimidated, y'all. Y'all are gonna be just fine. Here's the thing about bolstering. I should probably mention bolstering. So the mechanic of bolstering is if you're in combat with something and relatively close, not like 40 yards away, and something dies, anything that's still alive gets a stack of bolster, which is going to increase their health and increase their damage dealt. So so you want to kill everything perfectly evenly as much as you can. We didn't do that, so now we've got these things that have massive amounts of health, and they will basically one-shot anyone they actually hit. Such as when they just one-shot me and my little you look at how fast people are going down when they actually get hit. So me and the druid are trying to push them away, keep ourselves alive with some vortexes. Tried to line of sight here, didn't know if it even worked, but I don't die, and that's all that matters, right? So really quick cleansing that debuff on the tank because he cannot have that. at all these bolsters, delicious. So, Harvest Essence has to be immediately interrupted there because otherwise that would absolutely destroy us with 1 tick because of the bolsters. All right. Woo, we did it. Hooray. So, this next area is one where you want to skip if at all possible. So, we're skipping it here, but I'll just explain this pull a little bit. You don't want to pull this pull if you can at all skip it. There's a lot of different ways to skip it. You can see here we get a demon hunter is imprisoning. Monks can paralyze and then bring the thing away. Rogues can sap. You can shroud for safety if you want. Invis pots. I think that warlocks can even put a portal from like here over to here. I've only seen it happen once and I didn't see where they put it this side, but there are a lot of different ways to skip it, and you want to skip it because that's going to change prideful. Plus, this pack just freaking sucks. But we're gonna all these different mob types we've either already fought or we'll fight later, so I'll explain it later. But I'm stealthing just because I don't trust myself. We get through here. These are the same types of mobs we've already fought. And then this area right here with these thorns is another Night Fae thing. You can go in and get buff mushrooms. So Night Faes, make sure you open it. The other druid did. So again, these are 2 more soul cleavers. So they're going to put on that magic debuff that needs to be dispelled. No, the poor little mage pulled threat. And so that's why he ended up getting it. And I think he dies here, or maybe just cauterizes. He's already got cauterized. He's gonna die. Rip. Harvest Essence, that's the AoE damage. I think it might heal them as well, not sure. I just know it does a lot of AoE damage. You don't want to do that. And now the soul cleavers, I believe it is. They get big and glowy. Yep, you can see these, they're big and glowy. I think it's called like Hand of Thros or something like that. Basically, when they're big and glowy, they do a lot of damage. Your tank should ideally kite. Help your tank kite if you can. They don't always realize they're supposed to do that, though. Be prepared to cleanse them immediately on the debuff that they get and try and heal them through it. Everyone here gets a green mushroom. Don't worry about the purple mushrooms. There's enough green mushrooms for everyone to get one. It'll last 10 minutes, and it's just a big stat buff. Again, because that thing had 3 stacks of bolster, you can see us all helping the tank to not have it up in his business. So Bowbreakers, this is the first time we'll see them this pull, or this run. So these 2, once they go underneath 50%, they'll do a thrash, that's AoE damage. So you want to make sure that you don't push them both through at the same time. As a healer, you want to make sure that you have cooldowns ready for thrash on Fortified Week, things of that nature. Just understand that these could, if you push them through at the same time, these could cause some pretty serious thrash. The other thing they do is they're going to put out it's called brambles or something like that. See it here in a moment. But what it's going to do is it's going to create a dark circle under everyone's feet. As soon as it starts casting, just move, because it will slow you and deal damage. So as soon as it starts, yep, Bramble Burst. So as soon as it starts casting, just move. As you can see, it slows and damages. And now because we skipped that 1 pack over there in the river, we're going to get prideful right as these die. Perfect, because we're going to start a tyrannical boss. Now keeping in mind that this is a fair amount of AoE damage, and I know a prideful's coming. So I need to make sure everyone's nice and topped off. Especially because this might be a long pride, because with it being Tyrannical Week, they might be saving their cooldowns instead of not doing the pride bit. So, pride, this is my first video in this series, so I'll just explain a little bit about pride so I don't have to in the future. While pride is up, it is gaining a stacking buff. You can see it right here. It'll get up to 20 stacks, and the higher that buff, the more pulsing damage everyone is taking. So, pride is a really good time to use your personal defensives, like, I don't know, Barkskin. Touch of Karma is great for here. Fortifying Brew, Ancestral, whatever shamans have, Divine Protection. You can tell I only play healers. Shield of Vengeance is another good one. Ret Paladins, just anything that you can do to just like smack a button, do extra. If you are a Shadow Priest, hit Vampiric Embrace. Your healer will love you. If you are a Elemental Shaman, you have the spec one that kind of works like Vampiric Embrace, that, damage you deal causes you to heal the group. Another great use for it here. The other thing that happens here is, you'll see I've been selected. I am the chosen one. As this goes on, it will alternate. Someone's going to get this, they will get a little bit bigger, they will get these cardinal direction lines here, and when that countdown that I'm doing is done, balls will shoot out in all of these directions, and if they hit you, they're going to do a lot of damage and they're going to stun you. Generally speaking, I mean, you do want to use your brain and logic here, but generally speaking, the goal is if you are the chosen one, stand still. Like if you can absolutely guarantee that you can get out of, that it's better for you to move safely than for other people to move, then sure, go ahead. But for the most part, if you try and move and then other people are trying to move, everyone's gonna be constantly trying to adjust around each other, and it just gets hectic and painful. So just whoever has it, just stand still, let everyone else move around you. And so also the notable thing is these will never rotate. Everyone who summons one of these for this pride is going to go in these exact cardinal directions. So if we let's talk about let's show you what I'm referring to. So handy dandy paint. So I am about to put out a line, since this is my big official prideful selection. So my balls are going to go in this direction. Everyone else's is going to go, if this guy were to summon them, he would do it like this. And if this guy were to summon them, he would do it like this. So it never rotates. It's always going to be in that same direction from where it was. So actually, as you can see, we're relatively well spread out. Now he might be a little bit close to me, so I should keep an eye on that. He might also be in position to get that melee. So, but you can see here that as long as people are smart and plan around it and you have the space, you can all just spread out at the correct beginning time and just never have to move again, because the angles are never going to change. That said, as a resto druid, I feel that I am actually obligated to tell you to stand inside of the efflorescence during Prideful. Please, for the love of God, do so. If you don't have something about your class that causes you to need to be at ranged, like I know some specs, like because for their rotation to work, they need to stand at max range. I get that. If you're not one of those people, you should be melee adjacent. There's so many healing things. Paladin Mastery, Efflow, Healing Rain. Even my little Mistweaver monk has Bone Dust Brew. There's so much stuff that is limited in range. Please, for the love of God, help your healer stand in melee adjacent during Pridefuls. That's it. Okay, so now we can see. So the mage just got hit by my ball. So he probably because he was typing instead of moving. But see, so now I saw that one was going to hit me, so I had to immediately move to the right so that he didn't have to worry about moving around me. And now this one would hit me, so I'm going to move again. I'm choosing my position to try to hopefully not be in anyone's, but as you can see, I'm moving each one. That's fine. I'm a resto druid. I'm highly mobile. So, okay, so now that Prideful's dead, we see that we're going to get the buff. It's a 1 minute buff. It is going to replenish your mana 100%. So healers, don't worry about like blowing all your mana healing the Prideful. You will not need that after the pull. So, all right. Boss fight time. This boss fight consists of 2 dudes. You want to start off by killing the tree. Once the tree, and the tank has to tank both of them. And hopefully is interrupting Moon, the little dude. And then the tree is going to do the frontal cone that we've already seen some trees do, and he'll also put out blue puddles. And then, since it's tyrannical, the little dude is going to be casting spirit bolts, which really suck. So you want to hopefully interrupt as many of those as you can, but it's not going to wipe you if one gets through, unless you're on outrageously high keys. Then you wouldn't be watching this guide if you were. So you start off on the tree, because once the tree reaches 30%, he helps you, and it's easier to kill the little dude. And typically people will hold heroism or lust, whichever you prefer to call it, until it's time to DPS the little guy. So that's when you can look forward to it. So you can see that the tree put out these blue circles. Eventually the circles will disappear. However, on Tyrannical they do a lot of damage. Sometimes a fear comes. There is a fear in this fight. So shamans, have your finger on that tremor totem. But the fear will always fear you away from the boss. So if I were to get feared right now, I would be feared through a puddle and would take damage. That's unfortunate. Well, this druid is safe. He would be feared through safe spots. So, so something to consider. That said, I know a fear isn't coming. It takes quite a while for the fear to come out. So I'm just ignoring it. So there's the repulsive visage. That's why I moved away. Is because I'm like, oh shit, oh shoot, I'm about to be feared. Let me move to a safe spot. So we've got the tree down to 30%. So we've switched to the little guy who's just gonna stand there and take a beating. And we've got our lust going now. There really shouldn't be anyone taking damage now. This is a great time for healers to eke out some extra DP. Now, eventually the tree will come back to life. It's happening now. You have to kind of make a informed decision here about what you're going to do as a group. If you take too long to kill him, he eventually goes nearly immune. So you only want to stay on the little guy if you know that you can do this last 20% that we've got very quickly. We actually do, I think, because we do have some pretty good DPS. So, but if you don't have the best DPS, or if he's still at like 40% or something, just switch back to the tree, DPS the tree down to 30% again, and then switch to the little dude one more. I figured he was going to die sooner, so that's why I took so much damage there. I just kind of tried to make it work. Okay, so a few things to talk about. Night Fae, there's a seed here. You want to go hit that. That's going to give you a graveyard here so that if anyone dies, hopefully isn't going to happen, but if anyone dies, they can resurrect here. It is very important that you remember to hit this. And then Mistcaller, sorry, is, pardon me, this begins the maze section. So watch where Mistcaller goes, because that's going to be the first correct door, and then we'll talk a little bit more about where to go from here. I also have a weak aura, which you'll see me using here. I personally, when it comes to doing the maze, I personally am of the opinion that if you have a mobile ranged healer like a Resto Druid, it should be their job. If you had, for example, maybe a Holy Paladin, you don't necessarily want them to be doing it because they need to be in melee generating holy power, and there's probably a ranged who's better suited. Like the Moonkin we have would probably be an okay solution if I was on my Paladin. The mage could also do it. But basically what you want to do is figure out who's going to lose the least amount of DPS from doing the maze. It's their job to do the maze. But that said, a lot of people just consider it the healer's job. I'm very accustomed to doing it, and there's also all sorts of weak auras such as this one to help you out. So let's see all of this that I've just talked about in action. So these two guys, it's kind of annoying to only fight two mobs at once, especially on a tyrannical week. So a lot of people will attempt to pull things through this wall. We do attempt to, and it's stupid because it's bolstering week and we don't actually get the pull successfully done until the things are at like 10%. So we needlessly bolster here, and it's very annoying. I think I say lol what or something like that. These guys do a spear flurry. It is incredibly painful, as our monk is learning right now. You need to get out of it. It's a frontal cone. They won't turn once they've started casting it, so melee, get the hell out of it. And range too, it actually goes pretty far in front of them. When anything dies around these centaur guys, they become enraged. Hunters, rogues, and druids can cleanse that enrage. Generally speaking, if they're probably, by the time they start getting enraged, especially on bolstering week, they're probably not going to be up very much longer. So it's not usually worth the GCD, but it's important to consider if things go south like they're about to. As you can see, the druid was who did it, actually. I thought it was the druid, but someone is going to try and pull this shit. Yep. Yeah, so the druid was dicking around up here instead of doing DPS. You can see he's done no DPS. If he'd just DPS'd this pull and not done that, we probably would have been, like, honestly a little bit better off, because you can see we're about to lose a lot of time due to this bolster. So some other mob types that we're seeing here. There is a moth that will do an anima injection. It's an AoE around you, so if you get it, you need to get away from people until you're cleansed. Healers, you gotta cleanse that. AoE root, you can see. AoE root itself, not a problem, but remember, there's those enraged spear flurries going out. So that's it. This is all the trash in this area is very much combo bad. Nothing itself is terrible, but if certain things go off together, it's going to absolutely wreck you. So, and one of them is this. So, Monk Revival, very good. Remember that you don't necessarily need a magic dispel to get rid of this, so that will too. Druids can shift out of it, paladins can freedom people. Gnome racial, the superior gnome racial will work. Monk Tiger's Lust, anything that'll break roots will get you out of this. And I highly recommend doing it just so you don't accidentally get yourself spear flurried. And Bucking Rampage is about to go off. This is the other rough thing. So you can see you can't see very well because everything is blue, but you can see a circle around that mob. And once that Bucking Rampage goes up, it's going to begin channeling down and doing a lot of damage to anything in that circle. You want to stun Bucking Rampage. However, you want to stun it after the cast goes up and begins channeling down. Otherwise, it will just recast it. So you need to wait till it goes off, and then see it almost one-shot the monk as he couldn't move. But you want to stun when that after it goes, when it starts channeling down. And then the Miststalker, which is the fox, it'll jump at people and bite them. It's bit the monk. And it's just a bleed that you just have to heal through. Paladins can bubble them off. But you'll see, since they're bolstered now, it actually does a fair amount of damage. So I need to keep an eye on whoever has this bleed and make sure that I heal them through it. And now we just get to try and keep people from dying because bolstered mobs. Alright, onward. So now I'm going to start doing the maze. So to do the maze, you just go to each of the little pillars and wait for the icon to pop up, and you're looking for what's different. So using the weak aura makes this a lot easier. This is basically all just the same stuff that I've already described. I'm sure that something's going to pop up that's of interest here. I'll just keep on watching. Oh, Nourish the Forest should absolutely be interrupted. It is a AoE heal on everyone. And it's like a hot, so if it does go off, then like a blood elf can purge it all off, so it's not too bad if you have a blood elf in the group. Priest Mass Dispel, basically anything that you could have used on that front group that I talked about could also be used. Anima Injections, that cleansable debuff that that I almost got the poor monk killed by being a little slow on the cleanse there. And we've got a big bolstered boy while we fight the prideful. It's unfortunate how much everyone's taken damage, and I'm not even sure why, so I'm just gonna trank while I'm doing this. Whenever I solve the maze while we have Prideful up, I always mark it with a world marker, because sometimes by the time you kill Pride, you forget which one's which. Right, Prideful's dead. Through we go. The maze is always random. There's a few set like locations, so it's not truly random, but you know, you never know what you're gonna get when you start. It's kind of the new Waycrest. See that Bucking Rampage just. Okay, so depending on what maze you get, you'll either get the I think it's just the frog or the dragon. So the frog, it's just a frontal cone basically, so just don't stand in front of his tongue lash, and then he like tongue lashes the tank. The dragon is a frontal cone that could like it extends really far out, so don't stand in front of the frontal cone, and the tank needs to pull the dragon out when he summons the puddle. You won't see the dragon in this one since we got the frog, but yeah, that's just how to do the dragon. It's just come out of the puddle. Don't stand in the and don't stand in the leaf. That's the other thing. Just obviously don't stand. Oh. Crash. product. Already marked it because I Pride's coming. Just in case there's anything interesting to happen for Pride, I guess. So everyone is rooted and see a bucking rampage is about to go off. The mage did a really good play there by fire breathing it. It wasn't at the ideal time because, of course, it would have been nice to actually cancel it out by waiting until it goes off. But if he'd waited until it went off, we might have had a tick, and that tick might have killed. He did a good play there. But now you can see we've got these beefy bolstered dudes and a prideful, so we need to kill the beefy bolstered dudes real quick. Especially that bucking rampage could have been very dangerous. So now just prideful as we normally would. All right. And boss time. So this boss is kind of an interesting little one. So the general, I'll just tell you how, as we go. So we start off just pretty simple stuff. You fight it. Pew pew. Dodgeball happens. So these arrows come out, and after that cast goes off, a ball is going to very quickly shoot out of each of these. So when dodgeball goes out, just like move to the side and make sure that you didn't move where someone else had just been standing, because otherwise they're going to get hit by their dodgeball. There we go. You can see those going off. Next comes patty cake. So this is something that will stun and hugely chunk your tank if it goes off. Unfortunately, only the tank can interrupt it. So tanks, this is your job. No one else can help you with this. You need to watch for patty cakes. Freeze tag is the fox. It will target someone and summon a fox very close to their location. It can target a melee, which means that Consecrate will break any CCs you put on it and things like that. Unfortunate. But bottom line is it's going to summon a fox. The fox is going to pick someone and run at them. If anyone ends up in melee with that fox, whether it's the target or not, that person takes a huge amount of damage and gets frozen, and that actually can spread to other people around that person. So you need to avoid the fox. It cannot be booped. So you can't typhoon it, you can't ring of peace it, but you can do basically any other hard CC. You can paralyze it, you can frost trap it, you can roots it. So I think we just mostly do roots and sheets. So you can see, yeah, lots of CC went out. And then we have another dodgeball. And guessing game. So here's the only other mechanic in this fight, is that now she's going to summon symbols, very much like the maze we just did. So you can see here, got all these symbols, and you have to see what's different. So you can see what's different here is there's only one that has a flower symbol. So that's the one that we have to kill. And meanwhile, they're doing a lot of damage, and we have to worry about making sure that fox doesn't hit us. And she can also dodgeball and patty cake. So remember, tanks, you can be forced to interrupt during this. And if we all convene on the target that we're supposed to kill, the dodgeball can end up very, very concentrated. So just lots of things going on at once in this fight. If you see someone who has the fox CC'd, like, keep an eye on it anyways. It's so easy for fox CC to break on this fight, and you really don't want that people to be like, oh, the fox is CC'd, I don't have to worry about it, and then the fox comes at him from behind or something like that. And then that's basically just what the fight does. Just understand that these things can definitely compound as different mechanics are going off together. And also on explosive week, it's really tough because there's so many ads here. So yeah, he just got hit by a dodgeball, I believe. But there's so many ads technically in this fight and they're so spread out. It's very easy to miss explosives on this boss. So it can be tough on. In particular, when the tank brings her here, it is very common for the lines from the dodgeball to disappear underneath the terrain. They didn't that time, but I've definitely seen it happen. So just understand that you need to move, and you need to move to where someone wasn't just at, you know. Oh, there we go. See, they're underneath, so you might not be able to see exactly where it's pointing. So you just have to be confident in where. At the bottom of this waterfall is another seed that the Night Fae can and should hit, because you definitely want so it's right here, this big acorn, and you definitely want this graveyard because sometimes you get knocked off. It just happens sometimes. They lag. Not that I've ever done that. Anyways, so the mechanics in this area are pretty simple. Staghorns have two things that need to be interrupted. One of them is stimulate resistance, the other one stimulate regeneration. Obviously, the first one keeps them from taking a bunch of damage and kills them. So both of those need to be interrupted. One person can't handle both of them. So what I would recommend is, if you know how to play, then, and if you're not able to communicate quickly with your pug, then just, of course, obviously have your interrupt tracker ready. See if people are getting the first one, and hold yours for the second one, because the last thing you want is for everyone to blow their interrupt on the first and no one to have one ready for the second. So hold yours for the second, as odds are someone's going to get the first. And the way you know you've got one for the second, my opinion. Acid gullets are going to cast I'm going to call it a poison. However, it is not technically a cleansable poison. It's just damage that you can't really avoid, and it does damage to anyone around you in a little circle. So if you get the little circle around you, just don't let anyone else be in your circle. There's nothing more that can be done about it other than like hitting a defensive. There's this stimulate resistance, so you can see 2 people tried to interrupt that, which is fine, and we've got 2 more interrupts available if necessary. Oh, it won't be. Oh, it was necessary, but it died right away, so whatever. This next pull here is often done relatively large, so be prepared for large pulls. I forget if we do one or not. It's basically everything we already fought, so just those stimulate resistances. There's one staghorn in here that needs to be interrupted. And then there's also mobs that'll do big green swirlies on the ground. The big green swirly is interruptible. So by interruptible, I mean stunnable, not like a kick interrupt, but if you can stun it like with a leg sweep or something, it will keep it from going off if someone's like really in a bad position. That said, you just move out of it and it doesn't do damage, so whatever, let it go off unless it's going to kill someone. And then these the little hornets, which fly around, so sometimes they're in the pole, sometimes not. Most people will try to get them into the pole. They will charge at someone and give them an actual cleansable poison, and it can stack. So if people start getting the stacking poison from the hornets, you want to cleanse whoever's getting the stacked version. If you are running with a shaman, and I think maybe a priest is the other one who can't do poisons, you want to make sure that, like, if you're someone who can do poisons, if you're like a DPS or a tank, monk or paladin or druid or something, then help them out and cleanse some poisons if things start getting. So there's the big green swirly. The reason that that's so dangerous is because not only does it do damage, but it also knocks you really far back. So it is highly likely that it will knock someone off a platform and instantly kill them. That's why you really want to make sure that of all the places you get the acorn in this area, because it's highly likely that someone will die to that. Badly bolstered again here. I think this tank doesn't know how to do bolstering based on like his IO and his history and stuff. I'm pretty good of bolstering. Which is fine. See, I've got 2 stacks of the poison, so I was definitely the cleanse priority there. Gonna get prideful here, so we're just smaller pull. Same deal though. The Gorger's the one that does the green circle. Staghorn's the one that you interrupt. Acid Gullet's the one that puts the circle around someone that they shouldn't take, or that they shouldn't let anyone else be in there. Simple stuff. Honestly, simple stuff for the rest of the dungeon. So this area is actually one of my least favorite ones to fight a prideful in, especially because my alliance main is a gnome. But even if I wasn't a gnome, it is incredibly difficult to see people underneath these big bug bodies. If you're a tank, try to post, like if he pulled this over here, it would have been so much easier to see everyone's circles, but it's going to be really difficult to see people's circles if someone in melee gets one. So by circles, I mean lines. I did not do well in geometry. So we'll use this pride to kill a bunch of this trash here. Usually, since you'll have pride around here, you'll probably double pull this. I'm actually surprised he didn't double pull it, considering... Oh yeah, actually, if I recall correctly, he tries to, and me and the other... So you can see him running off to try and pull stuff, but this thing isn't dead yet. So he's going to just needlessly give all of these things an additional 10% health and damage if he pulls this into that. So you can see I'm going to push this away so that we can kill it away and not bolster the other shit. Sometimes you just gotta make up for bad tank play. That's the healer life. Oh no, now you can see my true form. Okay, so we're about to approach the boss, but we still need the last prideful. Sometimes, especially on fortified weeks, people will just not bother doing the rest of the trash. They'll kill the boss and then do the trash after, so they don't have to waste time killing the prideful. But especially on this week on Tyrannical, we want that prideful buff. So pull this extra little bit of trash. The reason that you never really know exactly what you're going to end up doing at the end is because that maze can be variable, thus you can get different percentages. So most people will just, actually everyone will just back pull these bugs to get what. Time. It is very helpful, by the way, for you to get a weak aura that counts down your prideful, because sometimes people just can't quite tell where you're at because lines are hard to see through bugs and stuff, but being able to see the little shouts and shout bubbles and stuff is helpful. All right, boss time. So Trudeau is actually kind of an ass on Tyrannical, to be completely honest. I'll just go through each mechanic as it happens, but the important thing to note is that as the fight goes on, it's supposed to be like she's getting smarter as time goes on. So in other words, her mechanics become more deadly as the fight goes on. So pop Lust right off the start. Okay, so here's the first mechanic, Acid Expulsion. So you see the green swirly, you want to move out of it, right? Right. However, here's the thing. The boss, the mechanics is going to remember what direction you move in and how far you're going to move. So, and that's going to dictate something that happens later in the fight. So you want to move as little as possible and in a known direction. So I'm going to move a little bit to the right, I think. Yep. But only a little bit. So next is Parasitic Pacification. So this absolutely needs to be interrupted. If it goes off, an infester ends up on someone and you need to DPS them, because otherwise they're basically mind control. So someone absolutely needs to have an interrupt ready for this. Preferably, definitely make sure a ranged is watching out for it, because as you'll see later in the fight, it gets a little bit hectic and melee might not be able to get like into melee to kick in time if they're running out with ads or something. So definitely range, keep an eye on that. Hold your interrupt, don't interrupt anything else, hold it for the master. So consumption. So now it's just huge amounts of like, so we're gonna see blue swirlies, right? And everyone's just gonna, even if they don't stand in the swirlies, they're still gonna be taking damage. Now, right now it's not interruptible, but if we can get through a certain amount of damage, you can see here we need to do about 25,125 more damage, I guess. And once that happens, we can interrupt it. Depending on the group you have, some people will choose to interrupt it as quick as they can, some people will not. The reason for this is because basically, if you don't interrupt it, you just keep dealing with the swirls and the AoE damage. If you do interrupt it, she then moves on to do more of her mechanics, which, like I mentioned, are getting harder hitting every time they go off. So there is a reason to go for either one, depending on how your group's built and your preferences. Personally, I would rather just deal with mechanics than just have, like, during Prideful, it's not a big deal, but later on, if I don't have the Prideful buff, I would rather they interrupt it, but I understand the other concept, and both of them are very valid. So now you can see we can interrupt it, but this group does not do so. That is totally fine. Have to instead dodge little swirl. So here comes another Acid Expulsion. So you'll remember that the last time I had this, I moved a little bit to the right, right? So now what you're going to see is now you can see there's one that was going to hit me and one that moved to the right. I moved to the left. So the next time we have it, I will have one that's going to hit me, one that goes to the right, and one that goes to the left. And this is how you control how the things spread out, so that you don't cover the total room with everything. So, accelerated incubation summoning ads. The ads will mostly focus on one person. Apparently, it's me. Mage has been very kind to give me a Ring of Frost. There's all sorts of really cool, like anything that you can do to help out whoever gets targeted is good. Ring of Peace. When I'm on my Mistweaver, I'll just Ring of Peace when they get to me. Leg sweeps work. Typhoons, roots, Sigil of Chains, all sorts of stuff. You wanted to get these larvae down as quickly as possible, just because they're going to focus someone and cause them to have to take their focus away from the fight, and that's not good. So, I think a mind link's gone off, and I didn't actually explain, but I'm sure we're going to get. So here comes that next decomposing acid. So remember, I've moved right and left, so now you can see that I had one that moves right and left, and now next time I'll have one that moves back as well, because I moved back this time. Show me that mind link so I can talk to the folks about it. Talk to the folks at home. So yep, you can see one went left, one went right. So one went right, one went left, one went back. So and now the next one will go in the like 4 o'clock direction, I would say. Mind link. So it's actually picked on me. Hooray. So mind link is going to pick one person and create blue lines and link them to a bunch of other people. Your goal is to break these tethers by getting further away. The easiest way to do that is for the person who is the main target to just go as far from the other targets as they can, and hopefully those other people won't have to move. That said, it does a lot of damage. On Tyrannical, it's helpful to break it as quickly as possible, so if you can just blink away in the other direction, just move away from your line. That's all it is. Just move away from your line. Okay, I did it. Picked for the ads again, so I'm going into melee, actually just right on the tank, so we can easily group up and get them burnt down very quickly. Acid explosion. You can see that because of the way that we've all been moving, while we have kept it pretty tight up in here, it is getting a little bit scary in melee, but luckily we are just fine. Though I do, if I recall correctly, like screw up a mechanic right at the very end and take a pretty big chunk of damage. Yeah, it's because I did not plan for that acid. But we did it! Hooray! So that's Mists of Tirna Scithe. It is, you can see, ooh, spoiler alert. Don't want to get you guys too excited for the HOA there. But you can see, based on the fact that we screwed up so much with all the bolsters and stuff, and we still almost two-chested. Don't worry about it, y'all. Like, have some fun in keys. Get Keystone Master. It won't be difficult. Just do the pulls. Don't be too intimidated. Hopefully, guides like this one will keep you from being intimidated. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. I will try to address them in the next video, which, spoiler alert, oops, HOA.